Thank you all for tuning in to another series presented by AMC Technology and me, David Grant, Enterprise Solutions Manager here at AMC. I'm joined by Josh Peck, who is here to answer any technical questions that I might have as I walk through this presentation that you're all watching. So what we're going to be covering today is getting ready for and planning for the retirement of Open CTI from Salesforce. This is something that seems on the surface relatively simple, but as we dive into it, you're going to realize that these changes are coming more quickly than you would probably guess, and the work that needs to be done to effectively migrate while maintaining the customer and agent experience that your organization, enterprise, expects should start tomorrow. So why does this matter? Well, Open CTI, as we could see here, it's not just a technology change. It's an architecture decision that is being accelerated or forced upon organizations that use Salesforce and Open CTI to integrate their CCaaS or telephony platform into Salesforce. The reason that this is happening is because Salesforce has introduced all these new awesome workflows and agentic use case support, but like everybody else, Salesforce wants to, own more of the desktop. And so a lot of these really cool use cases and agentic use case support is being locked behind migrating from Open CTI to Salesforce Voice. So it's going to give you the support for those AI use cases and as we move towards more of an agentic enterprise, certainly, but it's also going to give you the ability to have Salesforce handle your routing, give you tighter control over everything that it is that's happening. But there are some pitfalls and pros and cons that we need to understand and learn about as we make the move to Salesforce Voice, because every organization and enterprise is a little bit different, and this is not a one-size-fits-all decision, certainly. So you really ought to be starting to look at making a change now. And as we move into 2027, I know it's only March, but these things time moves faster when there's a change that's got to happen. I think we can all understand that. And the things that are changing are quite a lot. We've got architecture, we've got the vendors that we're using. Our costs are going to change, and the amount of control that we have over how use cases get supported is going to change as well. So all of this needs to be evaluated before February 28th of 2028. But we've got time. So let's jump into it. Who is it that is really impacted by this? Well, if you're using Open CTI in Salesforce, if you're handling calls in Salesforce, whether that's a third-party vendor that's enabling that point-to-point integration, or if it's a native integration from your CCaaS platform, and you're not using Salesforce Voice and the Salesforce Voice agent experience, you are using Open CTI and you will be impacted by this. If you have some complex routing that is going on, if you're using multiple CCaaS platforms, if you've got some data and compliance requirements specifically around PII and things of that nature, this is really important for you to pay attention to, because all of this stuff is in play as we make this move. So we're at a crossroads when it comes to technology, and I'm sure we all know this. You can't turn on the TV without having somebody talk about AI. But the focus is more and more being pushed away from creative AI tools. OpenAI, as an example, just canceled and shuttered their Sora application. And so, that would create the funny videos that you would see on social media out of AI. And they're instead focusing more on business-driven AI use cases. And so that sort of speaks to where we are today, in that businesses and organizations are looking to find ways to use AI to enhance the workforce that they have. And so Open CTI right now was not built for that era. Open CTI was built for the era of point-to-point integrations, telephony living primarily outside of Salesforce with independent CCaaS vendors, and using humans to manage the timing of the events and things of that nature. That's not where we are right now. We need real-time signals that rely on timing and sequence that humans, we're really good at a lot of things. We're really good at building these AI tools that can do some of this stuff better than we can. So we need to use these systems to push the events, set the timings in such a way that they can act together in harmony. And so you need something that's a little bit more than just that point-to-point integration that Open CTI was enabling. And so where are we today? Well, orchestration requires, orchestration is required for AI to work the way that it is that we want it to work. The way that I think the Jetsons, as an example, would believe that AI is supposed to work. And so we need those events and signals to be consistently timed. So we need that data that's coming in from the telephony to be shared in a timely, consistent, predictable fashion with the tools that are going to be processing it for these agentic and AI use cases. Went the wrong way. So we've outlined here at AMC 4 different paths forward, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into each path, but just as a brief overview. The quickest path would be just to build on your existing platform, what it is that you're using today, the existing CCaaS platform that you have, and migrate to Salesforce Voice. A lot of those CCaaS platforms have, well, not a lot of them, but some of them have native integration. Other ones require third-party vendors to assist in that orchestration. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention the role DaVinci and our DaVinci toolkit plays here in the way that we're able to orchestrate these events and these use cases in this AI and agentic age. Now, you could take a more controlled transition, which would be to, let's start shifting routing and some logic into Salesforce without getting rid of everything at once. Gives you a chance to move in phases rather than all at once, which gives you opportunities to roll things back and like that it's working at first, and reduces the overall risk. Now, if we really want to have some fun, we can just dump the CCaaS platform altogether. Salesforce recently announced Agentforce Contact Center, which you'll see on number 4. But what's a little bit different about number 3 versus number 4 is a lot of enterprises have phone numbers that they've had for a really long time that they've got mapped to all these various places where they're advertised. I'm sure there are, some heavy users of customer service lines that have these things memorized. And, we don't want a bad Yelp review to be generated because we've decided to change phone numbers. And so one thing that you can do with Salesforce's most recent announcement around the Agentforce Contact Center is actually bring your own carrier. And so you don't have to change your phone numbers, but you can dump the CCaaS platform. And using the DaVinci toolkit for voice, we can actually orchestrate that for you. Bring your phone number over and allow for the Salesforce Voice integration. You can move all your routing, your IVR, your IVA, everything into Salesforce. This ought to save you some money and give you more control over your data and the entire contact center architecture that you're relying upon. And so the difference between 3 and 4 is 4 doesn't require any other tools, really. Everything is in Salesforce. You're making use of the phone numbers that you would generate from the Agentforce Contact Center. You are using everything inside of Salesforce. It's really quite an incredible move that Salesforce has decided to make. If you were to ask me what I think the best path forward is, I think that what we're going to see is a move of enterprises first starting with one, then taking a look at shifting routing and logic into Salesforce, then seeing the CCaaS platforms being moved away from. And then finally, one day, I think a lot of these large enterprises that make use of Salesforce may migrate everything into Salesforce. I don't think we're there quite yet, but we'll see. I'll use this as an opportunity to throw it over to Josh and pick his brain for a second. Josh, based on the work that you've done and the experiences that you've had with our customers here at AMC, these 4 paths, are there any particular pitfalls that people need to be worried about? Anything? We have some slides here in a moment that's going to get into this a little bit more, but maybe a little preview. Like what is something that we need to think about if we are to, let's say, use number 3, dump the CCaaS platform and just put everything except for the carrier piece into Salesforce control?
Thanks, David. I don't think that there are any pitfalls that are related to anyone in particular. I think the biggest pitfall that I have seen so far with our existing customers that we're helping through these transition is to choose the wrong one for you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's really what can cause some slowdowns and some issues. If you have the resources and the time and the team to go full headfirst into like option number 4 for Agentforce Contact Center, that's great, right? You need to have the time and the resources to set aside and have that transition be air gapped from your production floor. If you don't usually have the ability to set aside agents and entire teams, you want to go for a more gradual transition to reduce that risk. That's oftentimes where I see the issues coming in, where they either are diving too far in, and now there are slowdowns and issues happening because they're trying to maintain two different environments at once, and it's spreading them thin, or they're going for a more gradual approach, and they're not hitting the timelines that they want fast enough. If that makes any sense.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely, thank you. So, sort of on this same path, we're going to go through each of the four options and talk a little bit about whether it's right for you or not. So, number one would be just keeping what it is that you have for CCaaS. Migrate to Salesforce Voice for integration, using the DaVinci toolkit to orchestrate that. This is the fastest way to do it. However, you are continuing to rely on your CCaaS platform, the pricing therein, and some of the constraints that are brought by, being tied to their roadmap and what it is that they're capable of doing. Now, DaVinci does alleviate a lot of that, given our open architecture and how flexible we are, but not everything, certainly. Number two, the control transition. This would be keeping CCaaS, but using Salesforce for routing. Where DaVinci plays a role here is through our DaVinci app for unified routing. I believe Josh actually spent some time on that app, a lot of time on that app. And so with that and the DaVinci toolkit, you'd be able to handle all of your routing decisions within Salesforce, map your presences where they need to be mapped so that your agents can do more than one thing and have their presences mapped appropriately across those different channels. This is lower risk. It is a phased approach, so you can roll things back if you don't like it, but you do still have that dual system complexity, and you are still going to be reliant a little bit on some of the limitations that CCaaS platform roadmaps offer you. The third option, let's use Agentforce Contact Center and get rid of the CCaaS platform, but keep our numbers. So we'd be using the DaVinci Voice toolkit to allow for routing and managing voice directly within Salesforce. You'd be bringing your own carrier, so you wouldn't necessarily have to change all your phone numbers, and you'd be getting rid of the CCaaS platform. So you'd have full ownership of the architecture and all of the data. You'd have absolute control over the cost of things, but it would require a bit more work in terms of design and planning. I'm sure there are a lot of routing decisions and things of that nature that have been existing within these various organizations that have been around for a really long time, and there are going to be people who view this as reinventing the wheel and will be resistant to that because of the time that it will take. And I totally understand that. It's absolutely something to take under consideration. And then the fourth and final one, just throw it all out and start over. We're gonna move right into Agentforce Contact Center. So the reason that you might want to do this, you're all in on Salesforce. You want everything to be Salesforce driven. You love the idea of only having one vendor that you need to deal with. However, just as there's limited flexibility when it comes to the roadmap of the CCaaS platforms, now you're reliant on only one person. There won't really be an orchestration layer partner in this option to help you build out support for use cases that are not on Salesforce's roadmap, as an example. So that's something to take into consideration as you look at the four different options. So what does it look like to be ready? Well, in going back to what Josh said about companies not really understanding what it is that they're ready for, and maybe choosing the wrong path, you really need to understand your telephony platforms that you have, the carriers that you're making use of, the phone numbers that you need to have, want to maintain, things of that nature. What does your routing situation look like? Are you using a traditional IVR at this point with no Gen AI? Do you have a Gen AI IVR? Do you use skill-based routing? How many skills do you have? Is there stuff there that could be cleaned up? Do you have agents that are using more than one channel at a time? Do you have presence mapping across multiple channels right now? If not, that'd be pretty nice, wouldn't it? Your data, this is something that people are always very concerned about, as they should be. But, is the data in your CRM of good quality? Are you saving good quality data within your CRM? Because as you move into the AI automation piece of that, the data out from the AI tools is only going to be as good as the data that's in there. So, that's definitely something to think about cleaning up. But what would your AI use cases be? What are your goals from AI? Are you trying to increase first call resolution? Are you trying to decrease the number of calls that get escalated? Are you looking at increasing the quality of that data in your CRM by leaning on automated call summaries and using next best actions to help your agents make better decisions on their calls? And then from an operations perspective, what are you leaning on for reporting? How are you measuring compliance and ensuring you're in compliance with industry standards and best practices? And what are you doing for workforce management? A lot of people use their CCaaS platforms, and a lot of CCaaS platforms have native workforce management tools that they lean on. So if you, as an example, decided to go with option 3, which was bring your own carrier, or option 4, which is full-blown Agentforce Contact Center, you'd be losing those workforce management capabilities that CCaaS has. So what are you going to do about that? Definitely things from an operations perspective that people need to take into consideration. And then on the technical side, do you want to keep your phone numbers? Can you? Where does your routing live today? Are you doing transcriptions right now? If you are going to do them, who's going to own that data? How is your AI? If you have AI today, who are the vendors that are applying it? Where is it being applied? Who owns the output of that? And, of the systems that you have today, I'm sure that they're tied to things, or they may be tied to things that are not contact center related necessarily. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. So what are all the integrations that you have today that need to change? How are other areas of the business potentially going to be impacted by these changes? So, that's why we recommend in many cases to start small, as we have had multiple successful pilots, folks that have started with, 25 agents, 35 agents, and then scaled all the way to 850, 2,300 agents using Salesforce Voice. Folks that are exploring using routing in Salesforce with those number of agents. But starting small, proving out your ROI, and then expanding is what we think would make the most sense. Now, some of the challenges that we see, this was touched on by Josh. Decisions made too early, choosing the wrong path. We don't want to wait too long, though, because then even if you make the right decision, it may be more expensive than it would have been if you'd gotten there a little bit earlier. We don't want to underestimate what's required to make this happen from an architectural perspective. Time spent at the beginning of any of these engagements learning more about the architecture and the topology will save time and money once you move into actually building this stuff out. We don't want to look at this as just another channel, as just telephony. Most people, I believe, would not. It's so much more. It's where your customers come when they are either elated with what it is that you're doing for them or not. And so there's a lot of emotions there, and we want to make sure that it's treated with the weight that it deserves. And what you certainly don't want to do is just follow what it is that your telephony vendor or Salesforce vendor has to say. You want to take in all your options. You want options, not obligations, right? So some good stats here. Almost 4 different customer experience technologies at organizations. 88% of contact centers are deploying AI, but it looks like only 25% are using them in day-to-day workflows. That's not. We got to change that. And 76% of AI leaders in businesses that leverage AI are saying that it can handle routing and availability, and that humans ought to spend more time managing the actual human pieces of these interactions, which makes all the sense in the world to me. So some key takeaways as we are wrapping up. The Open CTI is more of an architectural shift, but as I mentioned, it sort of serves as a good proxy for the crossroads that we find ourselves in terms of how businesses are trying to solve use cases more creatively and effectively. The push to AI is driving a requirement for more real-time systems. So actually being able to put that transcript in real time into Salesforce, which is what DaVinci is really good at. There are lots of different paths. We've outlined 4 of them. We've done our best to consolidate all the different options. Getting ready does require collaboration, cooperation across a business. Everything that these tools touch need to be aligned and in step with one another. And then it's way better to start early than start when it's too late. Writing that term paper at 2 a.m. feels good. It's never good though. Starting this at 2 a.m. November, December of 2027 It's not going to feel good, and it's going to cost so much more. So next steps, let's take a look at what it is that you have today. Everybody's different. This slideshow did the best it could to address a broad scope of possibilities, but every single organization and environment is a little bit different and bespoke. So we would want to take a look at what it is that folks are using today, identify some of the risks and gaps that your own teams have identified, and we'll probably identify some as well. We want to take a look at the options that we have, those 4 options, how it is that they may be able to be tailored to you specifically. And then let's align on some next steps and figure out how it is that we can get this in place for you. Now, we do have an Open CTI buyout offer. You can go ahead and scan that code and take a look at it. The gist of it is that the length of your current Open CTI contract, if it's not with DaVinci, not with AMC Technology, we buy that out until you move over to Salesforce Voice. So we'd migrate you to DaVinci's Open CTI and lay the foundation for the Salesforce Voice integration, and then move you on over to Salesforce Voice in a phased approach, which is certainly one of the options that we have for folks. So if when you view this, whether you're here on the call or if you watch a video that gets posted by our excellent and incredibly talented marketing folks, Mariah and Mary, and you have any questions, please shoot us an email at the email in the on the slide here. Give us a call at that number, or if you want to email me directly, you can at dgrant@amctechnology.com. Thank you very much. 11:30 right on the dot. Look at me go.